Good morning, everyone. How you all doing? Today is Friday, what is it?
16th?
16th?
Is it?
Friday the 16th
Today.
of September 2022. How you all doing? I don't know what the weather is outside. I know it was raining this morning. I know it's wet. I know it's miserable, but miserable is only weather. I have a guest. I do. Hello, everyone. Hello, Chris.
Hello, G-Man. How you doing?
How are you?
Mate, I'm very good. It's great to be here. We're losing track of time already.
I know. You're comfortable?
Mate, very comfortable.
I love it how we, like I just said to you earlier on, I said, when some people turn up like an hour earlier and we already have the discussion about an hour earlier.
Yep.
And then you started telling me some stuff and I went, no, just hold on to it. I don't want to know about it now.
Yeah.
Because it's really important that we talk about it. Mate, one of the things, do you know the premise of the show? Like I like asking people, I know it's called Waffles and Whisky and you know that, but do you know what the premise of the show is?
The premise, I've seen a couple, G-Man, but remind me.
So the waffling is me, where I'm doing a lot of waffling.
Yep.
And my father, who watches this religiously every day at 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, and if I'm not on, I'm not on. But he watches this and I read the news out to him. But we also, while I do the waffling, he does the whiskey. Now I notice on your little glass there, on your little table there, that you have two glasses. One is a glass of water, and what's the other glass?
It's full of air.
It's full of air.
Full of potential.
I'm asking because I've had a few guests on here that will actually go, mate, it's whiskey. Do we actually have whiskey? Do you want a whiskey?
Sure.
You're kidding me, because I love it. One of my subscribers, and that's from Stefan. Thank you, Stefan, who had sent me this for my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday for the other week.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So, mate, we are going to have the Arbor Law. And bring your fancy glass over here.
Sure.
And just say when.
Irish glass.
That'll do.
That sounds good.
That was like a triple when. Hang on, where's my fancy glass? Hang on a tick. And then, there we go. Cheers, Rudy.
Cheers, Rudy.
Cheers, Rudy. All right, for those
Rudy.
people who don't know who Rudy is, yes, Sir Rudy. He's the great legend of them all. I must bring him up. Hang on one second. I must bring him up. Rudy, where are you, mate? There you are. Cheers, mate. Love you to bits.
Cheers.
So, Chris, why did you even want to come here? Why did you want to do this with me? Seriously.
Well, convenience, mate. You're just around the corner.
know.
I could have walked here.
But you didn't.
Correct.
What is wrong with us nowadays? Like, you only live, 1.5 k's away or something?
Exactly. Inclemency it would be my excuse.
Oh, is that the excuse? Is it?
You mentioned you haven't looked out the window, mate. We've had a bit of rain this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a third El Nino.
So
You've just got to be careful with being outdoors.
Do you believe in all that stuff? The El Nino, the La Nina?
Yeah,
or is it just made up terms?
Well, I guess all terms are made up if you think about it, but the science is all there. That's
the science.
The good thing. Absolutely.
Don't start me with the science.
Climatology.
Yes.
Yeah. I believe in that for sure. I believe that we can discern patterns in the weather and the impact that it has on the climate. And yeah, absolutely, it's good science.
I might fall asleep if you keep talking about shit like that, mate. You're talking about science. You're a behavioural scientist. What the hell does that mean?
Well, I don't know. The science of behaviour. Apparently, I studied it for a few years, trying to apply empirical rigour and method to understanding the way people behave. In particular, cognition was what drew me into the field. How people think and that sort of stuff.
I hate having guests like you on here because you're just so intelligent. I get people like Leanne Hughes. I had Sally Foley-Lewis on here. I've got, who was it? Ben was on not that long ago. I had a car guy. I got you. I got John. I got all these intelligent people. And all I do is I sit here, talk crap, drink whiskey and take the piss out of people. And now I get someone intelligent like you.
G-Man, we've all got our different intelligences and we can... You deliver. Your intelligence is great in many ways.
You're such a behavioural scientist. You are.
Yeah.
Speaking of science,
Speaking
of science, do you know the science of words?
To a degree, in different ways. We've got the broca's area in our brain that's processing language. There's also etymology and the study of how words evolve and living things. It's interesting.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. So every day, I'm not even sure if we know who the first person on was, but normally when we do this, we have a person that comes on and they give us the word of the day. So I don't know, I haven't got my screen thing here, but I'm going to hit the button. And the word of the day, if we do, Altair the Fourth says, today's word, mawkish. Cheers, Rudy, cheers, G-Man, and cheers, everyone. And you're the everyone. Okay, I'm going to have to leave that with you.
Yeah, well, one guess would be that Robin Williams has been such a wonderful actor and influence on society, and the whole nanu sort of Mork style of embracing the crazy and the chaos might be the origins of mawkish. Mawkish from orcish.
Mawkish and mindish.
Mork from orc, maybe.
That's just stupid. It's as stupid as my response.
Well, mawkish, or is it like about being sort of like contained and slightly embarrassed and awkward would be my other guess.
See, I'm just thinking something like an ish, like a fetish.
Yeah.
Like a fetish.
A Robin Williams fan.
Maybe, I don't know. So I'm going mawkish is awkwardness. I don't know. Altair will tell us at the end of the show what it will be.
Looking forward to it.
So your
Altair.
final response is lock it in?
Yeah, Robin Williams fan.
Okay, I'm going somewhat awkward in a fetish kind of a way.
Cool, okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's a bit early in the morning, but then again, we're drinking whiskey at 9 a.m.
Says early in the morning, says us sitting here drinking whiskey and rye.
Yeah.
So let's get into what you do, because I'm always fascinated by any topic, and your topic is right around the behavioural science. Let's go way back when. What were you like as a kid?
Normal-ish.
I was mawkish.
Yeah. I grew up here in Brisbane, Meanjin. I was in Oxley, and just had a fairly standard upbringing in a big family. Youngest of, I have a twin sister. We were the youngest in a big family of 8. Good working class, solid, Catholic upbringing was a bit of a feature of all of that. Yeah, sporty little kid, just enjoying Queensland lifestyle.
So let me just see if I heard you correctly. You said you were a twin?
Yeah.
So identical twin?
No, a twin sister.
Well, yeah. Hey, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You still could be identical. You could identify as a woman. And
I could identify as my own twin sister if I really wanted to.
That was weird.
Yeah, exactly.
That was weird. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're now of the persuasion at school. Was social science a big thing for you? Were you interested in like a social science kind of area?
Only insofar as I really enjoyed the social element of school and high school and life. I enjoy people, and I guess it was that is that interest in people that makes me enjoy what I do. Feel fortunate for what I'm doing, just the interactions.
So you left school.
Yep.
And you decided to, did you do a gap year? Did you travel somewhere?
Sort of. Worked straight out of high school, worked for a bit, got really just great experience of what work life is about. And it's, getting stuff done, productivity and performance of the workplace.
Yeah.
So that was good. Then was interested in cognition. That's the behavioural science that we were talking about, and studied behavioural science, and that sort of was a foundation for what I do now.
See, and a lot of your work, from what I've known you from way back when, and we're talking maybe 20 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So you were you're really, so when I think about Chris Burton, I think about like some people with different personality traits. So, you're a master trainer in the behavioural side of things, but you're a master trainer also in, the DISC model or the DISC profiling system, which was something that, it's very similar to the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the MBTI. Yeah. Is that pretty much it?
Pretty much. It wasn't DISC. It was a different psychometric, and they've all got sort of similar approaches of using science and psychometrics to give feedback about who I am in a way that's constructive and focused on what we're doing.
Yeah. So it's really about building rapport with a person who you don't know much about, And so we could use like a technique that's called an ego up technique, where I would look at you and I'd make you feel really important. You would ego up me by indulging in a whiskey, and then we have a kind of like, oh, well, we're kind of like on the same page. And then does it then come into use when you and I have conflict, that I have to then look at, okay, how should I modify my behavior to suit you?
Yeah.
Is that about right?
Yes, mate. Yeah, for sure. That what are the skills we might need, the capabilities to develop the simpatico to get good conversations happening, that are that have a sufficient or robust dynamic that we can challenge what we're doing. You mentioned about being on the same page. You know, we sometimes make assumptions about that. We've got to talk about performance, and you're my great boss, but you've got an issue with my performance. So how can you use your understanding of me to be curious about what I can actually bring? What are my strengths, and how do they help us get better?
You've moved a lot from that now, though. I mean, from when I look at and talking about some of the stuff that you gave me over the last couple of days, and we're going to have a look at a sheet of paper that I think you gave me, which I think is more around the cultural aspect. So talk to me now, the area that you've moved into is still within looking at the behaviours and the understanding of people, but you're now focused on more cultural aspects. Talk to me what that means, because that's pseudoscience to me.
Yeah, no, and fair enough, and to lots of people as well. That's why it is so important to have the language and the capabilities to demystify it and get a handle on it. Because I guess your question, how does it link in if we look at how behavioural science fits into this broader field of organisational development, is a good starting point. So a behavioural scientist working in organisational development, OD, and that idea of organisations, and it's the whole system. And when we look at culture, it is part of the system, but also organisational development sort of embodies this idea of development, and things go in stages, and you know, so all of that stuff. So culture becomes an important part of the context that we need to have a handle on if we're managing organisational performance, especially as leaders. We're very good at strategy and the operational side of things, and organisational life is very much driven around, you know, performance, getting stuff done, and we are, I guess, only really beginning to understand the importance of culture, the role of people. Because we always look at people and task in systems like this, and the people side of things is being acknowledged for how important it is. And so we need frameworks, we need the tools to, and the lens to look at our organisation.
If I go into a session, you know, and my big thing is around de-escalating hostile, potentially violent situations, that's the thing that I do. So I walk into a group of people, whether it's, you know, 5 people or it could be 1,000 people, and you would do the same. And then my thing is about, okay, here are some strategies and some steps on how to de-escalate a person who's just starting to be hostile and abusive. Yeah. That's my thing. Okay, that's all I know. Okay. When a person employs you, what's the title that they're looking under? So what are they looking at? You know, the context. What do they ask for?
Yeah. Usually the title I'm coming in as is as a coach or a facilitator.
Right.
Yeah. And that happens at lots of different levels. And it's back to facilitating a conversation at different scales, quite often with teams. I really love working with groups, like an intact team. So typically a group workshop facilitator, team facilitator, and or an executive coach. So working individually. One-on-one.
Okay.
To help them understand in sort of appropriate levels of depth about the impact of who they are on how they lead. What's their leadership expression? What does that mean in context, especially when culture is something, as you said, it's, I forget exactly the term, mumbo jumbo. Or
pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience, absolutely. Yeah.
So for me, for example, it's like when you talk culture, is that you go into a group, do you talk about different cultures as in, say the American culture, or, you know, the South American culture, European culture? Do you talk about that, like Asian culture? I guess Asian culture is very different, because they're our closest neighbours, I guess. Yeah. Apart from East Australia, which is New Zealand, that's a totally different culture. What's with that rubbing of the nose stuff? Why do they do that?
Oh, yeah.
Do they do that?
Yeah,
it's kind of
I'm
neat.
curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Multicultural.
Why didn't we do
marvelous.
that? Why didn't we do that when you walked in the door and we just did that?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah, should have.
Should not.
Next time.
Next time. Okay, yeah, that's our challenge. So it's more about, you want me to understand more about the Asian culture because I want to develop business over there. Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, it's always good to understand the motivation for what you want to do in any learning. So if, for example, you want to do that, cultural capabilities, you know, and being able to look at a national culture is a good place to start. We can put some frameworks around things like business etiquette and acknowledging as well that Asia is a very big region in the world, and each national culture will have a different expression and different, you know, do this and don't do that.
Are we building good rapport with our Asian natures, national?
Yeah, great.
Nations?
Yeah,
Are we?
Great question. I was talking about this yesterday afternoon with a thinker in Hong Kong, and specifically looking at the difference between internationalism and globalism.
Ooh.
And this idea that the difference being internationalism is about saying, well, I'm in an Australian culture, I'm in a Western culture, and the way you do things over there is different, and so on. So I need to understand the parameters, and I still have a sense of difference. Globalism has a greater sense of belonging and acceptance of those different cultures. I think the difference between a tourist and a traveller.
Right. So when I want to get to the point. Say for example, a person is going to be jumping into one of your sessions. What do they ask?
Yeah,
Like you would have your normal. Okay, this is what we want to cover today.
Yep.
If that's if you're doing in a session, but if you're going to be coaching me as a one-on-one, what do I want to know?
Yeah. Typically, it's a performance conversation. So you want to know, how can I perform better?
Right.
And this is where the purpose of the conversation is really, really critical. Certainly for the idea of culture, because it is an enterprise-wide consideration. This stuff should be happening at the highest level possible. So talking about how can I improve our culture here? How can I ensure that we've got throughout the organisation a better understanding of what culture actually is? What are the capabilities that we need to develop? But also, what are the conversations that we need to have?
Yeah.
It might be as simple as we, need to clarify our values. It might be, well, hang on, we're finding difficulties with operating effectively with our Asian suppliers or with our US distributors, or is there some capability development that we need? But also, where do we start? This is where having a framework that we know is useful and works well to identify and carve up this big topic.
It is a massive topic. You gave me. Can I bring it up? You gave me this little overlay that I think I want to have a look at, because it might make some sense, and I'll bring it up a little bit bigger for everyone else. This is shaping culture by design. I'm not even sure where we should start with this whole thing here. So I've got in the middle there, and everyone can have a look at that. It says the purpose, why do we exist, and what do we believe in? What the hell does that mean? Why do we exist?
Yeah.
Why do we exist?
Well, for the organisation.
Yeah, for the organisation.
That purpose is something that needs to be enunciated clearly in a way that's going to engage people. There could be a whole variety of examples of what that might mean for you. Amazon as a purpose, as a clearly defined purpose statement. In fact,
Can't think?
Yeah, just
right.
just can't think.
That's right. It'll come to you.
Yeah, your purpose as Waffles and Whisky.
Yeah.
How would you define that?
It's interesting you say that, because I spoke to, I don't know if you remember the late, great Jenny Gorman. I had a talk with her once on the couch, and we were talking about, and she wrote a book called, Know Your Purpose. And I read through the book, and I'm not even sure I know I have a purpose. I know I want to do this, but there isn't. Firstly, I need clarification. Define purpose for me.
Purpose is the core reason why we do what we do. Defining that in terms that for you are going to be inspiring. Yeah.
Okay, so why do I do this?
Yeah.
Is why I do this. Okay, why I do this is because, you know, I indulge my father and I like to read the news out to him, and I think he gets some great joy out of this.
Yeah.
But does that mean, because this is a hard thing to now, this is my purpose that I'm doing this, and it'll stop one day. Like, it will stop because the purpose then ends. Because if my core purpose is about doing this for my father who finds it hard to read, and I read the news out, and I've got a whole bunch of degenerates and deplorables and reprobates who are watching this, once he decides to, on his own occasion, on his own will, leave this mortal coil and go to a better life somewhere, does that mean I then stop my purpose, or do I have to then redefine what my purpose is?
This is a great example of how these discussions, the preliminary discussions, become so important, because when you describe your purpose as bringing joy through this for your father, going deeper into what that means for you then will allow you to have that foundation for when things evolve, for you to reinterpret that. It might be that love that you want to express is now then transferred more or expressed more towards the degenerates out there.
It's really hard, because I know I don't do this like it's. I wake up in the morning and I go, my purpose is to grow this channel. I mean, this channel here has gone from, you know, from some massive great heights, and there's like 6 people watching this now. It's like so it's not really I wake up and everyone's going, I agree. It's not like I really wake up and I make this a thing that I want to grow into this magnificent machine. It's just something that I'm doing. I think one is to keep me busy, because otherwise I'd just be, I don't know, I'd just be in bed all day.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't be doing something. So I still don't understand why I do what I do. Does that make sense?
Totally. That's often the conversations that I'm having with individuals, is to refine that, and you're sort of giving the answer in part of what you're talking about, the motivation to be doing something productive and constructive. So we would just talk about why. So looking at why is that important to you? Why does that matter for you?
But what if I don't have an answer? Like, I don't. Like, I do. I'm such a skeptic when it comes to, when John sits here and he talks about all the stuff about, you know, depression and heartache, and I get it. Like, I understand it. But I also learnt not that long ago that knowledge doesn't necessarily equal understanding. I can have the knowledge of how to do a lot of things, and I've got the knowledge of what the purpose means, but I don't have an understanding of what this really means. So I am confused.
Yeah. And this is a good point to step back and say, well, to what extent does that actually matter?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah. And back to the bigger question of the conversations that I'm having with folk at work about why culture matters. Typically, before I'm even having that conversation, there is an awareness of why not being able to get a handle on culture or even purpose at this point, that there will be a rationale as to why that matters. So that will give us some focus in the conversations that I have at work. But then back to you, that whole idea of, why does it matter for you? How much of an issue is it that you might want to move on from doing this to something else?
Yeah, still confused. Like, I still get confused, and I'm just a simple guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a simple guy with not a lot of intelligence. You know, I have smartness in other ways.
Yes.
I am I'm a producer, as everyone knows. In fact, can I give you the heads up, people? If you just stop writing for a moment, stop talking to each other, will you? Just sit down, be quiet. I'm good at this, aren't I?
Absolutely.
I have no rapport building skills at all. At all.
Listen, directive.
I'm
Keeping you on track.
I'm
we've got
didactic
time.
here. We've got plenty of time here.
Ticking.
I got the heads up for you good people and you not so good people. I have a producer coming here next Tuesday. I have a person who's going to be who's going to be applying for the position as a producer here, and that person's going to be sitting where Chris is, and I'm going to interview this young fella who's like less than 25 years of age. Anyway, that's my ADD that's just kicked in. See how I do that? It just goes from one conversation to the next conversation.
I'm here with you. I'm tracking.
You're on tracking. You're tracking. So let's get back to. I want to have another look at this. This massive, wonderful thing here. Where do we go from this? So I've looked at this big heart thing in here.
Yep.
Why do we exist and what do we believe in? G-Man is still confused. Where do we go now?
Well, I guess the first thing we can take away is that we've got to have a good discussion around clarifying purpose.
Which box are we looking at?
That was the starting point, right in the center.
Oh, right in the center, okay.
Purpose and values.
Okay.
So we know that we need to clarify that. So that's one question that we need to come back to. What do we need to talk about becomes the starting point, a bit of an audit here. So we start in the middle. I think the symbol is pretty straightforward. Heart. One of the ways of looking at this is just a typical head, heart, and hands approach.
I like that.
Yeah. So when we're dealing with culture, organisational performance, or any coaching, just an easy way to delineate the important things.
Let's go through that. Head, heart, and hands.
Head, heart, and hands.
Head's brain, logical, cognitive.
Yep. Exactly.
Heart, emotion.
Yep.
Hands, the doing. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, nice and simple.
Okay.
And then depending on the context, we're talking about that. So the head considerations could be very much around strategy, the rationale, the academics, the longer term, all of that sort of rational stuff, as you said. But it might also be just having the knowledge, the capabilities. The heart, as you said, emotional stuff.
Yep.
Certainly when we get to climate and culture.
It's certainly when it gets to what?
Climate and culture.
Right, gotcha.
Like the mood and engagement, those sorts of things, we need to be aware of the emotional side of things. We can even broaden that out to a holistic look at the body and our new understandings of how the gut system and nervous system interact with that. And then hands, which is the big focus in so many organizations. What do we actually do? The skills, the deliverables, what we actually get done.
What do you do about people who are delusional? Like this guy here. Have a look at this. Pub test says G-Man really does love us. Like, that's delusional. Like, I don't love them. I don't love you at all. They're here because I think people like to say, if I ask each one of these people here, right? Each one of the deplorables on here, and I say to you, what is your purpose of tuning into this on a daily basis? For what? What is it that you believe in? It's not about love. It's about, is it about boredom? Is it about I've got nothing else to do at 11 o'clock at night in the UK, or 6 p.m. before Tucker Carlson comes on? So how do we, is this a delusion, or is this kind of like it's the Aussie poke?
Yeah, well, and probably a few of all of those things, G-Man. I think often this sort of conundrum of how we balance love and fear, and it might be love, and it might be fear of being poked. It might be that you're treat them mean, keep them keen style is resonating.
I think John Page has just answered the question here. If you have a look, John Page says to watch ADHD. There it is. That's what he says. Do you reckon that's it? To watch to see how the attention deficit, hyperactivity, you've missed out the, he's got AD, double D,
Well, being curious and embracing, neurodiverse perspectives. Back to what we were saying before, how can our differences lead to a better sort of whole or better performance? So, maybe that's part of it.
All right. While he says this, many of us can multitask. In fact, I had a young lady in here not that long ago, Sally Foley Lewis.
Yes.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
She didn't call it multitasking. She called it, come on, help me out, people. It was called
switching or
switching.
something.
Again, it's just taking a word. And
it's a nuance, but sometimes
does it?
This is it. These conversations that we have are about creating meaning and understanding. That's what you were saying before. There's a difference between knowledge and understanding, and sometimes it is down to a nuance.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, because multitasking is that idea of doing things in parallel, whereas switching is about just doing them sequentially, iteratively, from my understanding.
I want to talk about Sally. Sally, I hope you're watching this.
Yeah.
We've got some questions. I have some questions. Many of us can multitask. It's not disrespectful to talk around the edges. It is about communicating with familiar people of similar mindsets and learn about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Back to this idea, we make so many assumptions that our mindsets are similar, or that our mindsets are constructive, and as you said, the delusions that we need to be curious about. And this is where generally having a good frame is useful. But then also science. This is one of the things where having some reasonable data or some information that's credible.
You've just triggered a whole bunch of people in America just now because you said the word data.
Data.
When I first had Kate Rasmussen, when she was sitting in here earlier on, one of my first interviews, and she was talking about presentations and data. Yeah. Everyone's going, what's a data?
Yeah, right, okay.
So that's nuance again.
Yeah. Well, they say emu.
They say which?
Emu.
Emu.
Don't they say,
for an emu?
Yeah.
They also aluminum.
That's
weird.
And this is back to this example of cultural differences, the way we communicate, and different. Back, you were talking about the science of language.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is an example of how some of our cultural perspectives inform the judgments that we make around what we experience, and then importantly how we react to that. So if I choose to react and think, well, that's not the way you say it, then I've got to think about the consequences that has in how I express my leadership, for example. That might be overt, as that's not how you say it, or it might be micro. It might be, and those things get picked up.
While you were talking, Dung is Fun just gave us a $5 donation. Thank you so much, Dung is Fun. He says, I love you, man. Do you love me? The reason I tune into your channel, so I can see what's happening across the pond or Australia.
Yeah.
That's so good. There's a lot of stuff that I think, not a lot of Australians watch this. I think Australia knows what's going on in Australia, and they kind of like don't like the colour black because I like wearing black. I don't know. But I think people from across the pond, the UK, I think in New Zealand, even Asia, but more so America and Canada, is that they see the differences, and I think they see how different we are over here. So I guess I want to go back a step. I want to go back into that little model that you had there. But who was you? Who did you look up to? Like when you look at some stuff on YouTube or BitChute or Rumble or wherever you look at your stuff, or psychology.com, do you look up to people like Jordan Peterson? Are these the people that you look up to? Who do you look up to?
Yeah, Jordan Peterson's really, really interesting. Just such a fascinating guy and divisive. But I'm.
How do you mean divisive?
Oh, he splits people. Love him, hate him. He can be inflammatory, I think. I think his style and demeanour can be seen by a lot of folk as, intense.
Okay.
But back to that idea of a well-informed argument that's supported by lots of good science makes it very hard to not at least be curious and try to listen to what he's saying. To answer your question, probably even just back to classics. Jung, we were talking
Carl
before
Jung,
about understanding difference, and I think that general psychoanalytic field, Jung in particular, helps me understand a lot about me and you and differences. But then also, interestingly, more recently, Stoics, listening to, or reading that origins of Stoic philosophy, Epicureans as well. So that's interesting. But then also more recent stuff. I've just the library we share got Noam Chomsky's one of his latest books, Internationalism or Extinction. So interesting stuff. Pretty broad, but tends to be nothing that's I guess nothing too new or viral or Todd
brought something. Mate, drink your whiskey. I know you haven't had a drink yet, and I'm sipping this like I'm just. But Todd M just went. I just love listening to the accent. Is that a thing? Like, is that a thing? Like, I love. G'day, mate. How you going? I just love listening to the accent. Like, you've got a very, very cool accent. Yours is kind of. I'm gonna be really triggering some people here. Yours is not Queensland accent. Yours is like a Adelaide accent, South Australian accent.
Yeah, right.
Because it's very clean. Your voice is clean. Hello. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, G-Man.
It's so nice to meet you. You are like.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had an aunt who was a drama teacher, speech teacher,
speech therapist
kind of thing. Yeah. So exactly. And she was lovely in helping me. Well, she corrected my language, my enunciation, and so if ever I didn't speak clearly,
yes,
she would call me on it.
Did you know? I mean, Kirky Bally just brought this up. It's posh. Do you know where the word posh comes from? I only just learnt this not that long ago.
Port out, stub at home.
I see. You're too smart for me.
No,
what about golf?
Golf.
So, port only, stub at home.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll leave it to the deplorables. What golf stood for. Come on, deplorables. You all have to work this out.
Get out, loser, friend.
Close. No one's written it down. So it's gentlemen only, ladies forbidden.
Oh, right.
That's the way it should be.
Interesting. Okay.
We got to go now.
This interview's over.
This is over. This is done.
Yeah,
How
goodness.
cool is that? Look, I do want to talk about yeah, gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. But there's so many of those. What about Qantas?
Yeah, Queensland Northern Territory Air Service.
No, that's that one, but there's another one. What about Lufthansa? I know all the bad ones.
Like Fig Jam.
Yeah, Fig Jam. What about Dillygaff?
Yeah.
Do you know Dillygaff?
I do, yeah.
Come on, it's all the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go on. What is Dillygaff?
Do I look like I give a...
Fuck. You
Yes.
can actually say that. It's actually
Yeah,
a word.
yeah.
It's actually in the... it's in the dictionary. I think it's in the
absolutely.
Oxford Dictionary, so we can use these words.
And what's the comedian's name? What's the guy's name?
That is... Oh, yeah, we got me on that. I'm not
Yeah.
good
Kevin
on the...
Bloody... Is that Kevin Bloody Wilson?
Is that the Wilson guy? It could be Kevin Bloody Wilson.
yeah.
Yeah, I like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to... I want to have... See, I'm all over the show now. I know I've got so many things I want to talk to you about. But I do want to get back to this. So I'm having a look at this. Look, I'm looking at the feedback one on the bottom.
Yep.
Don't say bottom. How do we help each other learn and grow? So is that a big part of what you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And enabling that through back to capability development.
Yeah.
As a leader, I need to be able to have... To give the feedback
Yeah.
In a way that it lands, that is, that person's going to listen to that. It also, and back to the model, it's all part of the core culture. The top element of that, the head element of that is about how do we meet. And in organisational life, that's typically about meetings, and we can have a lot of workshops to clarify our meetings. But more broadly, that element of meetings is how do we collaborate more broadly when we have like interactions one-on-one, whether it's formal or informal. So they're the meetings. But then one-on-one, we need to be very clear on, for you as my leader, giving me feedback, and hopefully vice versa, that there is sufficient feedback mechanisms in any system for it to be operating effectively, and all of the continuous improvement stuff that feedback systems need to have.
Mate, this always gets really interesting. You'll notice on here, you see, if everyone has a look, you've got the passcode 666 down there. That's not the passcode. There's a different passcode that I've put on the Zoom link before, and I've put the different passcode on the members link, and I've put the passcode for those people watching through LinkedIn. That is not the passcode 666. That's the old one. Doug, is fun. I'll get to you in a second. Thank you so much. But if you want to make a call and give Chris a call about anything, I don't know, about where he grew up, where he lived, and who's his barber.
My barber
is my barber.
Our barber.
Our barber. In fact, let's say hi to Mark. He's probably watching. G'day, Mark. How you doing?
G'day, Mark. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, bro. You do a great haircut. This one.
Absolutely, beard trim, looking fresh.
Flash, mate. You're looking very
fresh
flash.
out the salon.
So yes, just the last one. If anyone does want to make a call, that is any of the numbers you want to call, or just go through Zoom if you have the Zoom app, and you can put in that meeting code, that meeting ID. But also, just for today, the passcode is not 666, it's 000. So if you've been listening or you're chatting amongst yourself, so think of the helpline. It's a helpline. Yeah. It's not 666, the devil's number. That's just with me. It's 000.
That was at my personal request. That we moved from the devil's number to the emergency number in Australia.
Who knows? I was going to do yesterday's number as 911 or the day before because it was appropriate. Yeah. I like changing numbers. I like changing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps us on our toes.
Can I talk to you about Sally Foley-Lewis? Now, something... Yeah. Firstly, let me just bring this up because Dung is fun. Thank you. That's not Dung is fun. That's Posh. Port, what is it?
Barber's down the alley. Barber's across the road from home, which is always good.
Dung is fun. Thanks, mate, again, for your wonderful super chat. In the United States, women go crazy for a guy with an accent to a certain degree. Australian, British, or German, highly sought after. The others, no.
Yeah, I like the little caveat. Dung is fun. That to a certain degree.
To a certain degree. I wonder what that degree is.
Yeah. Well, back to what you were just saying. Changing it up, and a change in accent is just something different. So it piques some curiosity. It's a bit of stands out from the noise.
So have a listen to this. I was having a chat with Sally, and we were having a discussion. And because she facilitates also, and she won a great award, a speaker's award. Yep. There is somebody on the line, and we are going to answer this call, mate. Put your headphones on, and you know what I'm like because probably nothing will work. I'm going to turn that on. See, and remind me about Sally though. You have to remind me
come
about
back.
Sally because my ADD will kick in and it will not work. G'day, mate. How you going with the number ending in 579? Who am I talking to?
You got me?
Oh, hang on a tick. I've got you. Hang on 1 second. I just need to change the audio system to headphones. I think I've got you. Can you say hi again?
Hi.
Ah, perfect. Perfect. Who have we got?
You got Herb again.
G'day, Herb. How you going, young fella?
I'm doing fine. I'm enjoying your conversation.
Thank you.
And you need to go back. I'm sure you do anyway. Read some of the comments that we went writing because, like you say, we talk to each other.
You do.
But one of the things that we realized that you do this for your father.
Thank you. I do.
And we know someday none of us are going to get out of here alive.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we have another 10 years of you and your father.
Mm.
But, we come on here because we have a chance to listen to your guests, get some wisdom, your free thoughts, the fact that a lot of us agree with you, a lot of us don't agree with you.
Absolutely.
But we all have a chance to say our piece.
Mm.
And we're respectful to you, and you are respectful to us, and allow us to say our piece. We don't always get that, even with our own friends or family.
Mm.
So we truly do love you.
Thanks, mate.
And
Look, I'll take that as a compliment.
I don't think you realize it, but you, in fact, return that love to us because of your respect.
Can I ask you a question? And I might have Chris here also help me out with the answer on this one here. So yesterday, I don't know if you saw yesterday's show, but yesterday I was talking a little bit about, I want to know what the purpose of the Royals. What is the purpose of the Royals? And I do read back some of the comments because I think it's important too. But I get confused when a person, like I've got an opinion. My opinion isn't right. It's like, what is it? What's an opinion like? It's like assholes. Everyone's got one, okay? So I'm thinking, I got a comment yesterday that I'm going to bring up in the next couple of days that this person had said, mate, I used to love your show because they agreed with me. And I guess this is where Chris comes in about the different cultural aspects of how people speak and how people have different ideas. But because I brought up something with regards to marmalade sandwiches, are we seriously going to put out marmalade sandwiches out in the front so we can, respect the Queen? I said, really, what are we for? So a person writes to me and says, maybe because this person's a monarchist, but says, I used to love your show. I used to love the way that you used to think, but you disrespected the royals. I'm out. Goodbye. I'm leaving your channel. Mate, do you think when somebody says that to me, like I don't take it to heart. I kind of like go, I've taken the piss out of so many people and they love it when I take the piss out of so many people, but they don't like it when I take the piss out of somebody that may be close to them or they revere. What do you think that's about? And maybe Chris can jump in and maybe put some cultural aspects into that. I know that's a long-winded question, mate. That's ADHD kicking in.
Why don't you let Chris put his 2 cents in?
Maybe.
And then I'll give you my 2 cents. I have an opinion.
Sure.
Okay, Chris.
Thanks, Herb. And by the way, Herb, marvelous to hear that acknowledgement of G-Man's purpose here, and I trust that's not uncommon throughout the audience. So nice one. Back to this importance of belonging that I think is part of this, whether it's an organization or a collective like this, people really feel belonging. What Herb's expressing is part of that. And when we're getting to those much more deep-seated values that we need to have aligned, this is why that's right at the heart of that model, because we need to be clear on what our values are, because when we feel that our values are being attacked or not, at the very least not embraced or accepted even, we're going to have a reaction against that. If we have the choice, we'll want to go somewhere else. But in organizations, we don't always have that choice. We might need the job, et cetera, for lots of reasons. And that dissonance between values, if that correspondence had been with someone who had to watch this every day or had to deeply engage with it, that would be problematic. And so
they get up and leave. So there's no resilience, there's no mental toughness, there's no There's no, well, let's have a conversation. I'll call G-Man up and have a conversation and have my word with him. So what they do is that they take their toys out of the sandbox and run away.
Because they have that as an option.
Okay.
Absolutely. And in this case, it's not a big deal. It's, it's watching some YouTube in lots of ways. But in the workplace, a lot of the time, that resistance or that difference of values is usually not sustainable. And back to the performance discussion that you need to be having, again, it would be something we would need to talk about. And Herb, what are your thoughts? If you're still with us.
I've been listening to what you've been saying. So this person that sent you the message, it's unfortunate. But you know what? We haven't lost anything. We've mentioned this before, you and I have talked. I have friends that I grew up with because I happen to have different politics, have called me all kinds of names. I don't talk to them anymore. People that I grew up with since I was 3 years old. So it's unfortunate, but they obviously didn't have an open mind. You're not allowed to disagree with them. They're not allowed to disagree with you. Isn't this part of our society to be able to disagree with our fellow man and still be civil? So, too bad he left. I don't think we lost anything. I certainly don't think you lost anything. It would have been nice if he said something about, because you've been honestly asking, what's the purpose of the monarchy? Well, I'm an American. We got rid of the monarchy a long time ago. We have a fascination with them, but we have our own politics. So, I couldn't answer that question. I haven't attempted to answer that. By the way, I thought yesterday was a no-no day. I had to watch you later in the evening when I realized that, hey, you came on.
I did.
So, but I saw your comments from yesterday.
Sorry, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to come on.
Yeah. I think Herb's point is good, though. Back to this question, to what extent does this conversation matter? Do we need to lean into this as a topic? In this case, this week, maybe not, but looking at an organisational perspective, being curious about what your different positions are and being able to trust each other enough and courageous enough to have that dialogue that you need to understand the benefit of each or the validity of each different person's position is often warranted. Sometimes it's not, and acknowledging that these conversations can take time. Even developing the dynamic within the context, within the group, to be able to have the conversations might not be an investment that lots of teams want to make, but by making sure we can understand and appreciate those different perspectives, listen to what those different perspectives might mean for getting the job done better and having a better outcome or delivering the better outcome more smoothly or more sustainably, it warrants at least trying to have those conversations to understand that, if that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Herb, any last words?
No, sir. I think there's somebody else that wanted to get on because they said there was other people in the queue. I wanted to just tell you what I thought.
Thank you, mate.
How important you are to a lot of us. So we like to laugh with you and shout at you sometimes.
Yeah,
but
good.
You are more appreciated than I think you give yourself credit. And Chris, thank you for your time. So
Thanks,
let
Herb.
somebody
Thanks
else
very
talk
much.
because you know me, I get on this thing and I can't shut up, can I?
That's good, mate. I like having you on. Cheers, mate.
Just the next time.
Cheers.
Cheers. And best to your dad.
Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's interesting that, the only thing I want to say to Herb is thank you for your patronage for coming on every day, but I am disappointed that today is Friday. It's Funky Friday, and I didn't wear my Funky Friday shirt.
That's pretty funky.
Funky? Yeah, Black Hops. But I'll be wearing a funky shirt maybe tomorrow. It's interesting, isn't it?
I didn't get
about...
the memo either.
No, you didn't get it
That's what I
either.
wore last
That's a
night.
nice shirt, hey?
Thanks, mate.
It's interesting it really is interesting about different cultures. And that's what fascinates me is that, I've got this big thing up here that I've mentioned a few times. You can't see it now, but it says, a conversation is a talk, especially an informal one, between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. But when we shut down the news or the idea and it doesn't work, then the whole thing just shuts down and we can't have the conversation. Why do you think? Do you think it's part of that person's value that they don't feel like that they have any recourse? They don't know how to bring things up. What are your thoughts?
Because it's several of those. It is about the extent to which the conversation at all is an organisational priority. So that's the first thing. It's back to motivation. How much of a problem do we acknowledge we're having because we're not talking about culture?
Yeah.
Once we come to that awareness that actually this is a relevant thing for us to be talking about, then we need to have the actual capabilities to have that conversation, bearing in mind that is more than just the frameworks and the tools and the psychometrics. It's also about having the trust within the group, having the forum. Again, that's part of the role that folk like me and you deliver, is creating a constructive forum, using the workshop techniques and that sort of stuff to make sure that the people in organisations who are busy, this is just one of the priorities. Making sure that time is used as effectively as possible. Making sure that there's an implementation plan as well. This needs to be more than just a chat about things.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a longer term sense. Remember that frameworks like what we just looked at are just the starting point. That's about saying, well, out of all of these, we might have some of these things in check. We might be okay with the mindsets that we've got. It might be out of these 10 different factors, there's one or two that we're doing okay, or that we did in workshops last year. This is about trying to bring together and align the different discussions that are happening a lot of the time.
Yeah. What sort of feedback do you get from people who, like, that you may be coaching? Like me, for example, I could be stuck in a rut kind of things, and I like doing this. Again, it's nice that I do this for my father, and like Herbert was saying, we hope that my father and I will be still having this conversation 10 years down the track. But then, do we then, like you said, realign, or do we then redefine what the purpose is? Do I then keep this going? Like they're the decisions. Like let me bring this little thing up again. What should I look at? The behavioural mindset. What behaviours do we reward? That's a good one. I like that. And what behaviours do we not want to see?
Yeah.
So maybe people kind of get confused with what they want to see with me and what they don't want to see. And I think the beautiful thing about conversation is that there are no rights and wrongs, is there?
In general, yes, being strength-based, because sometimes we need to accept that it's wrong. It's not working out for some reason, but be strength-based and curious about that.
But because I think, when I say there's no rights or wrongs, is that they always come with either a reward or a consequence. Yeah. So I might say something which has a reward, but then I might also say something which then has a consequence. But that's a conversation that I'm going to have.
Yeah, because invariably the outcome, the consequence depends. Yeah. It just depends on... whether it's a good thing or not depends.
I want to bring this thing up with Sally because I thought it was really important that when I sat here with her, one of the things was that she was talking about, which I kind of like had to sit back and think, well, what was the problem with that? And the thing is that when she's on stage and she doesn't say, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and she doesn't even say, good morning, everyone. So, and I'm thinking, if you don't say good morning, ladies and gentlemen, then who are we excluding? Like, what's the problem with saying good morning, everyone? Because then that brings everyone. And she said, oh, no, I want to focus on the you. Yeah. Like, I want to welcome you to the workshop. Have we gone that nuanced with language that I can't say, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Is there a problem with that?
Depending on the number of boys and girls in the audience, but...
what if I said... hang on. What if I said, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls?
Yeah.
What, does that exclude anyone?
Oh, look, I think it's more about people's reactions to the words that they hear. Perhaps, I think that idea of making sure we include you and making sure that me as a speaker is connecting with the you, the individual, that might be overthinking it to some degree. I think it is more of a broader connection that you're making with people when you're communicating with them, whether it's one person talking to 1,000 or one-on-one.
I think sometimes what we get into is that we get into the conversation of, there's a person out there that doesn't identify as a he or a she.
Yeah. I think definitely being conscious of how belonging different people feel,
Right.
because of bias and because of the language that we use.
So I
Language
should
matters.
change my language to suit. Or does
It-
some...
you might think about how important it is to do that, but this is also where an awareness of your own underpinning mindsets and biases towards that are worth being curious about and
Yeah.
challenging. Again, this is what would happen in a coaching conversation, is to think about when you see different people like the monarchist that you mentioned. Well, what is it about my own thinking that might have caused this rift, especially if that rift was problematic? You know
that
what I mean?
makes sense. I just want to put... Kirky just wrote something on here, which I think is pretty cool. It says, inclusiveness is denying certain others. Inclusive denies certain others.
I'd be interested in...
Well, let me put a spin on that. Like
Yeah.
when I see something like inclusiveness, is that... Let's just go our defence forces at the moment, and they're saying, okay, we're gonna be more diverse and be a little bit more inclusive, and we're now going to allow people who can't pass the fitness test.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
we're going to be more inclusive now.
Yep.
So I get it when we were on airlines, and back in the old day where you
Yeah.
couldn't have a person that was under 5'8" because they couldn't reach the overhead locker. I'm with all that. You just wear higher heels, and you can just you can be inclusive. But if we're now going to be, okay, we want to get a quota of 50% people who are unfit and 50% of people who are fit. Let's be inclusive. Does that mean we're being non-inclusive to the people who say, I've got the skill, the capabilities, and the outcome to achieve the job? You're just not choosing me because I'm fit.
Yes, and we've got a few different things here.
Okay.
One is about the physical requirements for an occupational role, and the extent to which physicality or a level of ability would preclude you from a job, or whether you can or can't do a job because of who you are, how you think. So that's one thing, and it's valid to have sort of those sort of measures. But in terms of talking about quotas, sometimes that is a valid and relevant and demonstrated way of making change, because this and back to the challenge that this is political as a position, or that inclusion leads to exclusion. I think you need to consider the perspective that's coming from, and if that is someone who has benefited from an unlevel playing field.
So an unfit person in the area of having a person in the tactical response team,
Or
with policing.
or a fit person who was in the tactical response team who feels that for some reason they no longer have access
So they shouldn't
to
be in
a
it.
role.
And they shouldn't be in it.
No. They're probably feeling that they're being excluded in favour
in favour of someone else.
Because of inclusion. So it's but the question though is to the vulnerable group, or to the person who had previously been excluded, that we're now mindful of their inclusion. Ask them how they feel about this, and is it just a matter of working towards a better state, and doing that intentionally.
I could talk to you for another hour and a half. Our time's nearly up.
It is.
My God, I can't believe this.
Yeah,
And this only just started getting juicy, because Wiley says a lot of the language, pronouns, issues are about people grabbing for power when they feel insecure about themselves.
Totally. Love or fear. It's and especially in organisations, that's what we spend a lot of time talking about.
Yeah.
Power. Yeah. We could be here for another hour, but maybe some other time, G-Man.
Oh,
You're on the
gosh.
clock. You got things to do.
We're on the clock, and somebody gave me this as a bit of a reminder. I didn't put it on. It's an hour clock, and it runs for apparently 1 hour. I haven't tried it out. I normally say once I finish my whiskey, it's the hour is up.
Well, the
Have
hour
you enjoyed
is
today?
Mate, yes, it's always good to catch
It's
up.
it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Just for a quick hour.
Absolutely, yeah. And hopefully it's been of interest to the folk that
I think it
checking
has,
this out.
absolutely. I think what happens is conversations will keep going after this. In fact, when we shut this down, the conversation still goes for another 5 minutes.
Great.
A chat amongst each other. And like I say, it's good. It is a small little community here. And mate, share this out far and wide. If you've got people that like to listen to different conversations, I think this is all part of it. People, this is all, it's all over Red Rover. And you know what I like to do? I always like to close off with the final theme song for everyone. Whack your headphones on for this one because we hear the closing song on this one here.
Thanks,
folks,
everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, so folks, if you've got some time, just hit the cheers button. And Frank Paulick just became a member. Thank you, Frank. Thank you so much. So let's bring up some of your comments. Can you all just do a cheers, Rudy? Shawanda says this. Damn that hourglass. There you go. Thanks, Chris.
All hail Rudy.
There we go. Mawkish. Sentimental in a feeble or sickly way. Oh, thank you. New word we just learned.
Yeah, I think that was... Yep, that was you. Well done. We're close. Very nice. On the weekend is Fridays. Always.
Hokey.
Hokey.
It's like fish, isn't it?
H-O-K-I.
Thanks, Chow Chow.
Night. Very cool. So that was Herb who called in.
How's your German?
Herb True. Noch einmal ist Leben.
Thanks, folks, man. You think a longer show? Yeah, thumbs up, degenerates.
Or just take two.
Let's leave the last one to 2 + 2 cats, which is long life. I wish you both. Thank you so much. That's what it means.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.